Welcome to GTV8 Muscle and Classics Special as hosted on May 16th, 2020. Now, I should explain that technically this is the second part of the event that Rushki hosted. The video for the first one was basically full gameplay, and when I started this one, it initially was going to be the same but with some added voiceover and stuff. But then it got complicated and evolved into a full episode, so I had to split it into two parts and call it a special. So with that being said, it might still feel somewhat stretched and long, especially in the beginning, because I had a different idea for it initially. And while I did trim it down a bit, it just wasn't viable to re-edit those bits. So the car for this race is the classy Mamba, which is made after Shelby Cobra. And I do really like this car in GTA. It's high torque, it's drifty, tail happy, it's great fun. But it does possess one nasty flaw, and that it understeers on high speed, which will be quite apparent throughout this race. Also, starting from race 2, we're gonna be trying out a reverse grid order, but on this first one I think it's just random. So as before, the co-host, who is Torban, posts the target time at which we start, which is 1:40. And once it hits, we are off. And I just kind of creep my way past Dirty and Sizian. And we are going! And as we gain speed, this is where the understeer thing becomes apparent, as I stay too close to the apex and I slightly understeer in front of the black car, who is Electric Razor. And at the same time, Dr. Hackmoff collides with Silver Arrow, which I think is no one's fault, as they both kind of steered into each other. Meanwhile, we approach a right-hand turn of Route 68, which is a bit of a mess. As you can see, Abemos is rolled over, and Sizian, Rushki and the Realities are kind of crushed up together. And in the last place, there's Dr. Hackmoff after his crash. In the meantime, as we continue up this twisty road, Kara makes his way into number 2nd, overtaking Nostr in the black car. Oh, and Beck quite energetically overtakes me. And Nostr misses the bridge, but he actually manages to fly over the creek and return to the track. And here is my first penalty, as I was cutting through the inside of the corner and very obviously hit Beck, causing him to crash into the railing of the bridge. Also, in hindsight, maybe it wasn't the best idea to stop right here, cause I could have been hit by one of these guys passing by. All in all, we now end up in 14th and 15th respectively, and it just goes to show how a mistake like this on my part has cost us many positions, as I am now second to last with only Dr. Hackmoff behind me, who is at this point miles behind. Anyway, we turn right at the crashed bus, and now we're heading down this road, which makes a slow left turn, and up ahead there's like a T intersection where Rushki has blocked a straight pass and made it into sort of a chicane. And unsurprisingly, people crash there, and I failed to notice where people are going, and I make a wrong turn towards Fort Zancudo. And I thought right and then, goddammit Rushki, why wouldn't you block this off with an object? And then only on a video replay later I've noticed these little plastic cones that were supposed to keep me from heading down the wrong path. Anyway, this is one of the riskiest and nastiest turns here, as it is hard and downhill, so you can easily crash or spin out or fly off the track. And myself, I understeer onto the grass and crash into this concrete structure of the drain tube. One more turn back onto Route 68, and this pretty much completes the lap. Now, up ahead on their second lap, Bass Machine and Kara are fighting for lead. And Bass Machine understeers, losing the lead to Kara. And it looks like he missed a checkpoint. In the meantime, I'm still at 15, catching up to Razor and Dodge. Looks like Razor missed a checkpoint. I have to say I do like Rushki's effort towards more realistic use of these objects, like he did with the crashed bus accident back there, or the way he did chicanes disguised as, roadblocks and construction works. It really makes you feel like there's some sort of narrative story back there behind it all, In the meantime, Dr. Hackmoth is almost about to complete his first lap. But something goes wrong, and for some completely unknown reason he drives off the road into the bushes.
You wanna have some fun, baby?
Oh, well, that explains it, I guess.
I'd love to fuck in that car.
In the meantime, I caught up with Dodge and Nostr. And Amos is also up there in number 11. Now the risky tricky corner, and we all go fine through it. And we also catch up to Beck. A couple checkpoints ahead, Dirty spins out, and Saizian crashes into him. As they pull back onto the track, we pass by them. Also, I must say it's refreshing to not be the only one who flips people off in races. Now I don't know what happened to Norster here, it doesn't look like he's been hit, it looks like he simply lost control and his car was in a pretty bad shape to begin with. So he flew off the track again for the second time in the race. But he does get a Medal of Honor from me for his continuous ability to legally return to the track. As we turn right off Route 68, both Amos and me brake hard and lock up the wheels, resulting in a bit of tail-happy sideways action. Unfortunately, soon Amos mishandled a turn and I left him behind. The rest of the lap was pretty uneventful for me, but at the chicane I almost hit back again. Thank God I didn't. After tailing Silver flat out on the straight, I failed to notice him brake in time, so I had to slam on the brakes and swerve left to avoid the collision. So obviously I lost a bit of time there. I managed to make up for some of that time on a twisty road uphill, but then I screwed up. By overcompensating for the oversteer, I slammed my car into the bridge railing, losing my right headlight, which is frankly quite heart-wrenching and sad. And then I understeered off the road into some bushes and trees. And it wasn't the last screw-up of that lap either, as along with Beck I went off the road on that risky left turn. Luckily, I managed to jump back onto the road without spinning out. As we entered final lap, I couldn't help but notice just how damaged Beck's car is. He had some serious camber angle going on with the front right wheel, which must have made it difficult to handle. As I brake early for the turn, Dirty slightly rear-ends me, but I managed to avoid hitting Beck by applying a bit more brakes. I tried my best to beat Dirty in acceleration, but eventually he had the upper hand. Up ahead, Bass Machine spins out on a bridge, and then Silver crashes into him. And that's how we end up catching up with them. Then, as we entered the slow left downhill turn, Silver hit the bridge railing and span out. Pretty much the same happened to Dirty, while Bass Machine hit Silver and also did a full spin as Dirty and Silver tumbled off the road. However, Bass Machine recovered pretty quickly from that and caught up with me. And as I oversteered on the next tight right turn, he overtook me. But a few seconds later, he fell victim to that nasty left-hand turn and span out. And that being the final lap, this pretty much secured me in position 6. At the finish line, Kara and the Realities come first and second with less than a second difference. About 10 seconds later, Rushki finishes in third place. And in another 5 seconds we get a close finish between Trail and Torben. Followed by me, Bass Machine, Amos, Beck, Saizi and Dirty, Dodge, Electric Razor and Silver Arrow. The second race features Coquette Classic Blackfin. And as I've mentioned before, we are using the so-called reverse starting grid. So the racers that came first in a previous race are supposed to go to the back of the grid, and those who were last supposed to go to the front. The race starts in Financial District, then heads north and west all the way throughout the hills, then back to the city, around the city square and connecting back to the start. This is a 2-lap race. And we are off! And holy crap, look at these wheelies! And now Mechanikov flips and cartwheels in the car he borrowed from me. As Torben steers left to avoid the collision, I end up getting sandwiched between him and Trejo, who gets pushed and unfortunately misses a checkpoint. Meanwhile, Mechaniko, what the fuck is that? Well, he falls off the overpass, but in his defense he actually manages to come back to the track and finish the race. In the meantime, Kari Satala overtakes me and hang on a second, those are off-road tires, Kara? How could you? Anyway, I happen to remember this track pretty well from the Grotti event. Specifically, how many people, including myself, have made mistakes and either spun out or flew off the track on this uphill left-hand turn. Needless to say, this time I was quite careful here. So far, Silver Arrow is in the lead, followed by Mnoster, Bass Machine, Sazian, The Really Beast, Dirty, Abmos, Kara, Big Homer, me, Torben, Rushki and others. And as you can see, Big Homer is fully committed to his zebra style with those white wall wheels. And here's another risky left-hand turn with a bit of a lift-off. Once again I catch up to Kara, but I just can't pass him around here. I do like this track, especially this relatively flat part, with series of bends going left and right. Anyway, from now on, the road starts consistently going downhill, so we have to watch out for loss of traction in turns, which leads to under and oversteer. And I go sideways and slightly hit Kara. And looks like Sazian understeered of this right-hand turn, and that's exactly what happened to me on the Grotti event. And now we turn left to head back to the city, and Amos oversteers, he was cutting through the turn and hit a bump. After a very long descending straight, we go through a series of turns. And now we're heading towards Maze Bank Tower overpass. And now we have to cross left to make the next right-hand turn before the city square. And the Real Abyss hits a lamppost. And up ahead, Mnoster understeers into a palm tree. As we go around the city square, I just follow what Kara is doing, which is a good thing, because normally I wouldn't cut across the pavements, but I'm starting to accept this sort of thing now. In general, the first half of lap 2 was pretty uneventful for me, as I simply followed Kara, although I did nearly slide off the road here. Bass Machine, however, did slide off the road and crash. Following the round down the long straight, Kara had a pretty good lead on me, but then he crashed into some stuff on the sidewalk, allowing me to catch up to him. But I didn't push for the overtake, as I didn't want to risk it and I was pretty happy with my position already. As we headed towards the overpass once again, I decided to go on the left this time, but that didn't matter because up ahead Dirty has crashed and we had to go to the right of him, which affected our cornering. Fighting the understeer, I had to apply plenty of braking. And then I screwed it up with kicking down the gearbox, which didn't work for me this time around and actually negatively impacted my acceleration. Anyway, in the end, Silver Arrow finishes first with the best lap time, Kara comes second. Whereas Dirty almost gets me in the end, but I managed to keep my third place. Treyo is number 5, followed by the Real Abyss, Torben, Bass Machine, Northstar, Rushki, Saizin, Abmos, Slim Cognito, Mechanico and Big Homer. The next race brings us to Sandy Shores, Blaine County, and puts us behind the wheel of the original Vapid Retinue. And we are off to a quite busy start, which could have been even busier had Rushki not put a hot dog stand over this explosive gas pump. By the way, I'm driving pretty much the same Retinue I drove back in Rally 2018 event, although following that experience I did lower the suspension in an effort to make it more stable. Anyway, after heading westbound down the left taxiway, we make a 180-degree right-hand turn onto the main runway, heading back towards the hangar, and then we turn left off the runway onto a dirt road. And Bass Machine hits Rushki. Another collision between Dirty and the Real Abyss. Interestingly, Big Homer is in the lead so far. As you can see, we turn left again and now we're following the dirt road around the airfield.
Well, I spent some time in a backwoods town. Duke saying nothing around that sheriff ran around the block.
Now a straight right-hand turn around this tree and ooh, that's once again quite busy. As the dirt road ends, we turn right onto Panorama Drive for a few seconds and now left again. And as you can see, there's a tempting option to go between the wooden poles, which can be trouble. Oh well, that's just fucking great. Once again, we are off the sand and back on the asphalt for a few seconds and again, left-hand turn onto another dirt road. After crossing the railroad, we turn left towards the other railroad crossing that is by the airfield where we started from, thus completing the lap. In the meantime, Real Abyss overtakes Homer and takes the lead. At that point, I caught up to Abmos, and I have to say that felt really great to race alongside your own car that you've built. As we were once again approaching the railway crossing, I have to tell you, I was pretty terrified of that bit, especially the risk of hitting that drain tube and losing control. Also the fact that Rushki put a hard left turn right after a jump. So I decided to turn my car in air so that I landed slightly sideways. At the start of lap 3, I overtook Rushki and found myself alongside Kara. Shreya pulled off multiple overtakes, but then kind of missed the next turn. Kara flipped over by hitting a wooden post. After crashing at the railway crossing, Bass Machine overtook me on the runway. And then I caught up with him again as he got rear-ended by Razor. Only to go full Casino Royale on the next turn. As I was nearing the end of final lap, Rashki was closing up from behind, followed by Torben. The Real Bees kept the lead and finishes first, followed by Dirty with best lap time. As I was trying to stay ahead of Rashki, Torben suddenly overtook him. And we had a very close finish. In the next and final part of Muscle and Classics Special. And we are off! Oh no, I've hit me Haniko again! And they're off the track! And I crashed. What a fucking idiot! But then he crashed. Ah, it's coming up! Damn, that was close.